Hello, Hornet Land. This is Dr. Don, your host for Hornetcast episode 8. And today in the house, we have our MUN Extraordinaire participants. So I'd like to introduce you to them. First of all, we have Isabel in grade 12, who went to, which MUN did
I
you go
went
to?
to H1 in Boston, so Harvard MUN.
Harvard MUN, fancy Harvard MUN. And then we have Hannah Lore, grade 10, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Where
Yes,
did you
grade
go?
10. I went to Chicago MUN.
Chicago MUN, the
Yes,
Windy
Munich.
City.
Yes.
Okay, was it windy?
Yeah, it was really, really cold.
Very cold, okay. And then we have Jaden in 9th grade, and where did you attend MUN?
I also went to Chicago MUN with Hannelore.
Okay, and so you were cold also?
Yes, freezing cold.
Freezing cold,
Yes.
okay. And then finally we have the MUN Advisor Extraordinaire, Mr. Watson.
Yes, sir.
And you went to a couple MUNs, didn't
Yes,
you?
I did. I went to the Panama MUN, which was
Okay.
also hosted by Harvard, and the Boston MUN with Harvard with Ethan.
Perfect. So, first of all, there are people out there that are watching this Hornetcast that are probably saying, what is MUN? It stands for Model United Nations, but they probably are still saying, okay, what is that? What does that mean? What do you do? You're going to these MUN things in Panama and Chicago and Boston. What is MUN? And so maybe you can tell the audience what is MUN?
Yeah, so I would say the easiest way to put it is just a simulation of the Model United Nations. So basically, it's a mini United Nations for kids where we get to research and discover about world issues and hopefully come to a consensus in hopes to, well, change the world.
Yeah, unlike you try to figure out a resolution for a problem with a specific kind of committee, and what you try to do is find the best way to solve a problem according to the country you're assigned.
And while you guys are like making resolutions and debating about certain topics, the good part is also you get to form new friendships across the world. So you get to connect with other people from different conferences and you get to cooperate with people with different insights and perspectives. So I think this is also what MUN just represents, cooperation and relationships.
And as Jaden was saying, you get assigned the committee and the country, so you don't necessarily are representing what you believe personally. So it allows you to kind of explore different perspectives and get to know other sides of the story, I guess, to what's going on globally.
Yeah.
So you don't get to pick the agenda,
You do
No.
not.
No.
right?
Like-
And
No,
so
no.
have you ever had an agenda assigned to you that you really were uncomfortable with?
I had North Korea for a committee once.
Okay.
And it was like on AI and how AI can negatively impact a country. And it was very bad because you couldn't find any information on North Korea. And all the information that you could find was that North Korea is a great country or that North Korea is very bad.
Okay. So the information from within North Korea, great country, the information outside of North Korea, bad
And
country.
it's very
Yeah.
limited.
Okay.
I also had Djibouti when I went to a conference. And
Djibouti.
Yes, a country in the Horn of Africa. It's a really
Okay.
small country. The problem I faced was lack of, information and data collection because my topic was artificial intelligence and data privacy. And Djibouti didn't have a lot of information about it. So sometimes when we're like setting agendas or when we're like presenting our perspectives, it's really hard for these countries, or we call them delegations. It's really hard for them to actually, set or propose something because we don't have a lot of information. So I think this is like a challenge, but also something really fun about
Yeah.
MUN.
Jaden, you might be the expert in Djibouti now for
Yes.
AI and
Yes.
policy work.
Yeah.
True.
Like
Definitely.
you might be hired to join the country and
Yes.
help them with their policy.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a possibility. Mr. Watson, how did they do in describing MUN? Did they miss anything?
No, they hit all the right spots. The only thing I would add to that is, and I think from an adult point of view, I love the global aspect of it. When we were in Panama, I think there were 12 Latin American countries that were represented there. When we were in Boston, I believe there were 60 countries represented.
Wow.
And I'm sure there was a good amount in Chicago too, but I think that is a wonderful thing. I think we both saw the Ukrainian delegation walking around, and they were super friendly, and you got to talk to them. Some of the larger groups, the Indian delegation and the Chinese delegation, again, you rarely get to have that kind of, I don't know, interaction with so many countries outside of your own and from so far away. And you make it work in those 4 days, and you try to do your best with them. And I don't know, like I said, as an adult, I get super proud of them, watching them go through this process over the 4 days. I think it's beautiful.
At the conferences, when you have these kids from all of these different countries, what is the language of the conference?
So it depends. For example, I know that in Panama, there were certain committees there were in Spanish. So you had
Okay.
the opportunity to choose if you wanted to, if you're more proficient in Spanish, you could participate. But most of the times they are hosted in English.
Okay.
Really, really interesting to see all the different people and perspectives just join together in one singular place, and we all are able to share our ideas in the same language, which is really, really cool.
So most of the time it's English.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Would you say is a language? And then do you ever have any students that where there's translation? Because I know with
Yeah.
regular United Nations, there's a lot of translation going on, right? So you have that same experience where you have students that are helping with translation, or
I personally have never.
you never
Me
had
neither.
that.
I've never.
Okay. It's mostly most of the students that come to MUN are proficient in English.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
That's usually
Okay.
the most common language. Now, I also did this when I was in Taiwan, and there were a few that would make it like they would have certain committees that were Mandarin speaking and so forth. But then, from what I've heard, I haven't been to the one in the Netherlands yet, but I've heard that one can take on maybe one of the European languages.
Oh, okay.
And
Cool.
I find that to be very interesting. I want to have that experience sometime.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. So, speaking of experiences, I want to hear about your experiences because each of you has had a unique experience. Maybe you've been to more than one MUN
Yes.
conference. You can talk about that and compare a little bit. So, go for it. Isa, we'll start with you.
Okay.
Senior power.
So obviously the conference I went to this year was HMUN, which was hosted in Boston. It was not hosted at Harvard, but by Harvard students. And so far it has been my favorite conference. Just because I feel like the organization was the best. It was the one that's the easiest going. But there are certain different committees in MUN. So you have General Assembly, which are ginormous, super, super big committees. And then you might have other specialized or crisis committees, which I'm not going to get into the specifics because it's quite specific.
Yes.
But those conferences are smaller and there's a lot less delegates. So what I personally did not like as much was that since I was in a General Assembly committee with double delegates, it was really, really big. There was, I think, over 350 students in my committee. So it has been the biggest one I've been to so far. And the topic was also the most interesting as well, but you don't have the privilege to talk as much just because there's so many students. On another hand, Chicago and DC,
Yeah.
they were pretty good as well. The committees weren't as big, which was nicer because you're able to talk and make more connections. But overall, I think they've all been amazing experiences.
Excellent. So you've been to 3 different.
I've been to
MUN
3.
Wow, that's MUN veteran.
Just to give some context, most of the ones we go to in the States, they come in at about anywhere between 3,000 and 3,500 participants.
They're large.
Very large in comparison to, so for example, when we host CAGMUN, we get just under 100 participants. And then when we went to
We
Panama.
actually got
we-
130 this year.
Oh, we did get one.
One-
Oh, thank you.
130.
Thank you.
This year was
This year,
entertaining.
yeah.
Yeah, I
In the
mean,
Greek?
I
This
saw
year was
costumes and everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what,
A
yeah.
little Greek action.
And that's what I mean. So we get to get more involved. Panama was upwards of about 500. So the kids kind of go through these different ranges and sizes of events,
Okay.
which is a learning experience in itself. Just understanding how to deal with something of that capacity.
Yes.
100%.
Awesome. Hane, you went to Chicago. Is that
Yeah.
your first MUN conference?
No, I've been in MUN since 6th grade, and
Whoa.
in 8th grade we went to Costa Rica.
Okay.
So that was really fun, but we were the only school that was international from Costa Rica. And then here in Chicago, we were like, my committee wasn't one of the big ones, but it was still a general assembly. So it was like a 70-person committee, but there were other committees that were like 350 people. So it was very like crowded and large, and there was always something going on in the hallway. What I like.
What do you mean by that? Something going on in the
Like there was
hallway?
always something going on in the hallway. Like there were people like there was computers all over the floor, like pencils, papers, binders. There
It's
was
quite
People
hands-on.
preparing
Yeah.
and
It's quite
getting
hands-on.
ready.
It's
And,
exciting.
Yeah.
like
There's always,
a lot of
like-
chaos.
Yeah.
A lot of
like
chaos.
there are people like discussing, fighting on what they were gonna do. Like it was really really interesting. Like one of my highlights was that it really pushes you out of your comfort zone. Cause I haven't been in a committee that large in here at CAG. It's like a 23 person committee around. So it was really interesting.
Did you speak up in the 300-person committee?
No, I wasn't in a 300-person committee. I was in like a 70-person.
70 per, and did
But
you?
that's still large.
Was your voice part of the committee?
Yeah.
And how was that? Were you nervous?
It was pretty nerve-wracking in the beginning, but then once you got familiar with everyone, once you there's these things called blocks, which are like the people you make the resolution with. Once you make your block, you feel a lot more comfortable in the conference, and you felt that you were speaking to someone, speaking for someone better.
I feel like once you lock in,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
you're set for the rest of the
Exactly.
conference.
Yep.
Once you make your block, you're set for the rest of the conference because you have people that support you and people who you support, and you have a goal.
The,
So-
the difficult part is locking in. But after
Yeah.
that,
So
After
you lock
that.
into the block,
Yes.
and the block is made up of certain people.
Yes.
With
How many
common
people,
goals.
How many
Yes.
people were in your block
In my block, we
Chicago?
were 15. And
15.
Yeah, we were the Latin American countries.
Okay, and so with those 15 people, you get really close
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
tight, and you do all the work together,
Yes.
and you present your
Uh-huh.
resolutions, and you support each other and cheer for each other, and okay,
And you generally, once you make your block, you generally have a lot more fun.
Yeah.
okay. So getting locked in is important. So you can
Yeah,
have more
to
fun.
enjoy it.
And,
Okay.
and you become more comfortable with the conference. You become more confident when you're speaking because you have some people you know.
Exactly.
Because sometimes we don't have our friends from CAG and we're the only ones in the conference when we're going to international conferences. It makes us really nervous when we just go into the conference. We don't know anyone from there, and we have to speak in front of 70 to 350 people. So once you form and once you make new friends, then you have some eyes that you do know, some faces that you're familiar with. And from that point, then it makes us feel more confident and more safe.
it's kind of like
safer.
a support system.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
You have
Becomes
someone
your family
Yeah.
at the
Yes.
MUN conference.
basically
Yes.
your family.
And are you
journey.
guys still connected with your blocks? Like people from your experiences in the past? Have you kept in contact or?
When a Maya conference, I made a friend through a blog, and
Okay.
Actually, it was really funny. So you guys were back in Chicago, and I was home, and I started getting messages from this guy I met when I went to Chicago 2 years previously.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, I'm here with a lot of your CAG friends. And we reconnected. and it was super funny. They were in the same committee, and we were all able to like chat for a bit
Yeah.
through FaceTime.
Yeah.
Oh, I met one of my friends from summer camp at the conference. Like I met her at summer camp last year, and I saw her this year at Chicago MUN. So that was really
Okay.
cool.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe when you go to university, you're gonna run
Yeah.
into some
Yeah.
some
Definitely.
old MUN friends,
Yeah.
It
right?
does happen.
It does happen.
Okay. What about you, Jaden? How was your experience in Chicago?
So I've been in MUN since 7th grade.
Okay.
I've been to 3 international conferences. I might be the only one who've been to Mexico MUN.
Yeah,
I
you're the only
think
one in
so.
Mexico.
Yes.
I think so.
We were
Okay.
the first
Yeah.
ones at CAG to participate in Mexico MUN, and it was also a really large conference with a lot of people, and also like Chicago and Boston, they have a lot of people as well. Like, I think the most intriguing part of these conferences is when it gets super intense. Not in a way of which we are attacking other people, but in terms of like having disagreements. But in those disagreements, there are interesting facts, information, and discussions that's going on. So sometimes, international relations don't actually get really stable. They become they weaken sometimes. They have conflicts, they have wars. I think this also reflects on our MUN conferences. Even if we as a student are representing these countries, we have to pursue and follow their perspectives. So even if I don't support this argument or perspective from this country, I do have to follow it. So from these kind of like discrepancies that happen in these conferences, I think it's like the most intriguing part that kind of like ignites my soul inside, my passion for like advocating for this, and we should
Yeah.
do this, our voice tones gets more intense, louder. And I think this also makes us like form like more bonds with other people, and it makes us feel more like comfortable, more convenient to the adapting into these conferences. This time when I went to Chicago, we were almost fighting with each other because we didn't have like a consensus of what should we do in terms of like resolutions. So blocks.
In your block.
Yeah.
You didn't have consensus.
Yes, we didn't have
Okay.
consensus. Like what Hannah said, blocks are like groups that come together to find some common solutions. We didn't find common solutions, so we were actually a failed block.
But that's really, really interesting because that's almost what happens every time in the real world, that countries are not able to agree upon a solution. Because what I personally don't like as much of MUN is that it's not as realistic. People always agree upon something. There's the resolutions always pass. But in reality, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was really frustrated this time because I was in the same block or the same group with Qatar, and we didn't have an agreement. So she found a different block, and then she got upset. So she didn't even talk to me, and she just started ignoring me for the entire time in the conference. And I was like, does MUN actually impact the real friendships that we find there? And it actually reflects on like the real diplomacy and the real international relations, United Nations, when countries, diverge and they depart from each other. Same thing with friendships, she just kept ignoring me for the entire time. Very frustrated for that, but actually that's like it reflects on the actual real world situation, like Isa said. So like these international conferences with diverse people from different backgrounds, I think it reflects those disagreements and conflicts even more. Because even though we're representing a country, we do have our own opinions stemmed inside our hearts, right? Since I'm from South Korea, I do have some biases, right? I think these creates even more like conflicts. And I think this is interesting because not just making solutions and just passing it, not we're done, but in between those parts we have those conflicts, which makes it more intense, more engaging, right? And more like inclusive to people.
Yeah.
So there's friendliness, and then
Yes.
there's diplomacy, and
Yes.
it sounds like you're learning a lot about diplomacy.
Yes.
You learn a lot in MUN.
Okay. So, Mr. Watson, if students CAG are not involved in MUN, how would they get involved in MUN? Because it sounds like it starts in the 6th grade.
We
It's a
have a middle
cult.
school team. Yeah,
We have a middle school
We-
team.
we
Yes.
have a
Okay.
middle school team, and the middle school team leads into the high school team.
Okay.
But we do take in new members, at the beginning of the year.
Beginning of the year.
It's
Okay.
not something that you can just, randomly join in, let's say, October. By then, we're kind of already up and running. We do have a wait list.
Okay, so it's
so
hard
we do
to
have
get
a
in
cap.
the
So
end.
We
back,
go through things.
back in the
Yeah.
day when I was well,
Uh-huh.
this system got demolished probably by COVID. But
Mm-hmm.
when you were an eighth grader, you would actually try out for
Yeah, you have
MUN
to
club
Yeah.
through a conference hosted like during the summer, and they
Ah,
would
yeah,
either
okay.
say yay or nay, and then the club was smaller and
Who says yay and nay? Are these MUN students? that
MUN
are-
students
Yeah.
like
the,
the,
your
the
governing board of
Yeah.
okay, so it's student run. This is a student run club.
Yep.
Okay.
But this is no longer the system. You guys all can join if you want.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like it sounds like really like weird from afar, but once you're in an MUN conference, like you get it. It's
Yeah.
like something you have to be in.
Yes, and that's
That's what a lot of people
also
don't understand.
yes,
Uh-huh.
it's quite difficult to get MUN without being in an actual conference, and that's why we began hosting CAGMONs
Yep.
because we
Yeah.
would we used to go to the international conference and practically knew nothing about them because we had never actually participated in any conference before. That's what happened to me personally when I went to my first Model United Nations conference back in middle school. And I got there and I was like, this was nothing at all as what I expected. So it's also a tryout so that you can see if you actually do like it and you can learn a lot. Probably the best is through experience.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When is Kagman? Do we have a date
November.
for it?
November,
November.
usually
Second or third weekend of November.
Okay.
Usually
so November.
the weekend before Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's what we try to get.
And
Okay.
I think like Isa said, experience is really important. And coincidentally, all of us has been a president in Model UN. So she's the current high school president.
Oh, congratulations,
He was-
President Isa. I'm sorry I did not use your
Yeah.
title.
Oh.
She
Oh,
was
we got three levels
yeah,
here.
she was middle school president 2 years ago, right?
In eighth grade.
Eighth
yeah.
grade,
Eighth grade.
and
Okay.
I was president last year. And based on our experiences of leading, I think conferences are really important because even if we teach people how to do something for the conference, they sometimes
the
don't
same.
listen, and they have to try it out. This is the best way for learning, I think.
Learning by doing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
even if
absolutely
you
right.
teach
Okay.
them what
100%.
GDP is, how to make resolutions,
I don't know what that is.
and how to write a position paper or an essay in MUN terms, if they don't experience it, they don't actually get that valuable knowledge of how to apply them into a conference. So I think that is why we have CAGMAN, and it's really accessible to people who are here at CAG, and it's only 2 days, I believe, right?
Yeah.
During the weekends. I know the preparation is very intense, and it sometimes gets a little bit longer, but it's really good for just trying out MUN and
In general,
serving.
MUN is a club that really pushes you out of your comfort zone.
That's what I want to get
Yes.
to. That's
Like
I
you
love
have
the
to,
levels of it. Go
you have
for it.
to you have to first push yourself to do something like schoolwork outside of school.
Mm-hmm.
Second, you have to have like the discipline to get everything done on time. You have to like push yourself to do quality work even if it's not getting graded, which is like I know it's hard. And then you have to push yourself to speak in front of a group of people. You have to push yourself to maybe like state something that you really don't believe in, but you have to believe it.
Some
like
acting,
MUN is
yeah.
really fake it till you make it. MUN
right?
is really a club of fake it till you make it.
I've heard that students say that MUN delegates are failed theatrical.
Especially like crisis
they're not wrong.
committees.
Yeah.
Not
Failed
wrong.
lesbians.
Right?
Yeah. And like it really makes you, it really pushes you in like everything. Like you have to be really fast, you have to be quick thinking, you have to make
Efficient.
connections, be
Yeah.
efficient, and like you have to, in like 30 seconds to 1 minute that you have to speak, you have to get your point across and convince everyone else that you're right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And a benefit of MUN is it actually helps you at school.
Yes.
So
100%.
especially like the knowledge or the global issues, the concept itself it helps you in various courses at school because you have the knowledge of what's going on in the world, around the world. So you have that basic, notion of how global diplomacy and international cooperation works. But on the other hand, when we're doing like class discussions or like Socratic seminars for grade 9 and 10, these kind of like activities or these sections in MUN actually helps you to kind of speak in front of the public. And one person from middle school last year was a very introverted person, but by doing various MUN conferences, she got to actually overcome her challenges, like her like problems she had with public speaking. So I think it helps you at school as well, not just relationships, but also at school as well.
Yeah.
I'm hearing leadership. I'm seeing communication and collaboration and compromise. 3 C's, right? Because it sounds like you got to compromise too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I think you have to also be willing to look at diverse ideas
Yes.
and be a respecter of diverse people.
Exactly.
Because there's
100%.
people from all over the world bringing their own cultures and traditions and ideas and ideals and values.
Yes.
So it sounds like a great experience. Well, you've sold me on it. I'm ready to join.
Come on in.
Ready to
That's
join. Help out. I don't know much about MUN except for my son's been to a few
Yes.
MUN
Yes, he did.
conferences.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know
He was
that
in DC.
this
went
is
to DC.
kind of the nerdy MUN thing, but I heard that they did a lunchtime resolution to put pineapple on pizza. They made their
That did
own
happen.
resolution at lunchtime.
That sounds
That
like
sounds
something
really
that would
nerdy,
happen. That
but
sounds,
it
is
sounds
really
like
nerdy.
But it's so
MUN
fun.
type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Anyway, congratulations to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you so
need to
much.
finish with a little Go Hornets because
Okay.
we got school
Yes.
spirit here with MUN.
Of course.
Right.
So
course.
on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
Go,
Go
Hornets!
Well, that was one of the best ones.
Yeah.